Welcome back, everybody, to the Hearthstone Global Games. Romania's hopes and dreams are still alive, but now we move on to Turkey versus Mexico. My name is Dan, and I have Neil Lorinda Bond with me once again.
Yo.
Oh, no, he's hipping down with the kids now. His lingo's getting there. Yes! At least I'm rubbing off a little bit onto Lorinda. Now, Turkey versus Mexico, then. We'll have a look at the standings as well and see where everyone's sitting currently at the moment.
Are they standing or sitting? Make your mind up.
They are doing a little bit of both, it would seem, as Turkey are 2-0, Mexico 2-1. So both in a good position. However, they would be in an even more advantageous position if they were to get a win here, Neil.
Yeah, this is one of those groups we can't over-analyse. I mean, we can, but it would be stupid because it's still forming. There's no hard and fast rules right now. But both these teams doing well. And as I said at the start of the show, Turkey, a team that I think we all overlooked. And looking through their records, really, we probably shouldn't have overlooked this team.
No, definitely not. And as you said, if they get to 3-0, they're in a very comfortable position. Nothing guaranteed just yet. It would depend on results going elsewhere, but they'd certainly be sitting pretty. They're sitting this time, not standing anymore. Let's have a look at both the rosters as well then. Turkey, some fantastic players, as you said, but also on the side of Mexico, we can't count these guys out either.
No, Irvin G, Epsilon, Yinus, and
Empanizado.
Thank you, saved me.
Say it faster and quicker, and then you kind of get away with it. That's my approach for it in general. People won't notice if you say it fast and quick. See, Stubborn Blaze, Thunder Up, Roll, and Bazooki.
Ah.
Did you get those?
They sounded great.
Exactly, I got them all on the ball. But yes, it's going to be an interesting matchup, Neil. Personally, I think I'm leaning towards Turkey. If we look at their previous results, they were able to 3-0 Vietnam. They were able to 3-2 against Singapore. Singapore are bottom of the table, but it was still a good victory for Mexico. They 3-2'd Singapore. And that kind of, the fact that they're both getting that similar result makes me think it's going to be a close one, but I just think the 1-3-0 from Turkey has me as favourites for them.
Yeah, Roll has played in 3 lots of preliminaries as well. So that's a big deal. He played in all 3 preliminaries last year. He won 7 matches and lost 6 against the best players in Europe. So that sort of experience in a match between these is probably a decent size edge. Stop It Blizz is a guy who's good on ladder. He's won countless, by his words, online cups. It depends how high you can count, really. But countless online cups.
It's something that we all struggle with, to be honest.
So, you know, if he's got a Frostbolt amount of online cups, then he's won 2.
Yeah. For Neil, who can't count to 3 with a Frostbolt, then yeah, that's always going to be a tough one. Let's have a look at the classes then, see what everyone's going to be bringing. Stop It Blizz versus Epsilon is going to be the first match of the day, and they're going to be choosing between Paladin or Mage, or Druid and Mage. And you can see all of the classes for everyone else. It is a best-of-5 matchup. All 9 classes are going to be brought by both teams, and if it is 2-2, we will get to that ace match where they might be able to use that 9th class as a choice instead of the one they've already used previously.
Yeah, be interesting to see. We haven't seen that much Mage today, oddly enough, and could have a Mage mirror match like we did last night. Be very interesting to see what they go with, but I think everybody seems to be leading with Paladin right at the top of the card today.
Are we surprised? Not really. I mean, Paladin is just dominating. And that's why we saw the Hungry Crab kind of meta evolve. Everyone's just saying, well, let's put Hungry Crabs in because Paladin's so strong. But even with Hungry Crabs being a thing, the fact that Paladin is still around just shows how powerful it is. And Stop It Blizz showing that as well by choosing it. But Epsilon, she's going to be choosing the Druid.
Yeah, no idea which particular Druid it's likely to be, but people seem to just be favouring the aggro Druid, but only a tiny amount.
Yeah, I mean, in general, the aggro Druid for me seems to be the most consistent matchup in terms of this current meta.
Right.
However, if you know you're going to be going up against something like a Control Warrior, then of course that Jade Druid can be absolutely fantastic. I'm thinking it's going to be aggro Druid versus the Control Paladin. They will almost likely to see because it seems to be the in thing to do right now. It just depends what variant. I mean, it seems like everyone has kind of homed in on their favorite Paladin variant at the moment. It seems to be that mid-range Paladin with the late game and some of the early game as well, rather than just the sheer aggro version that we had originally.
Yeah, and it depends. I mean, the meta going into the NA playoffs this weekend, which you can see here on Play Hearthstone, Jade Druid has got 41% of people playing it, and Aggro Druid has only got 24% of people playing it. So if you go on those stats, it's the opposite of what we're witnessing here, which is obviously a different format, of course.
Yeah, it's a different format, and I think that is mainly just because of the somewhat blind matchups that you have. You have to go for the deck that you just feel most comfortable piloting, to be honest. And in general, Aggro Druid is one of the decks that a lot of people are comfortable piloting because people tend to like aggro decks, Neil. Are you surprised?
I am surprised. People cry about aggro decks.
They do.
Please don't hit me, it hurts.
I hate that. Yeah, and please don't. It worried me ever so slightly. I mean, aggro decks are popular because of you're playing at your bus stop and your stuff like that. You want to get a quick ladder game out the way. You want to climb quickly. You want to get to rank 5 quickly. So then
you want to catch the bus.
You want to catch the bus.
Nice.
Then you can still play on the bus. Depends on how good your signal is. Is going to be the aggro druid then for Epsilon, and she's going to be playing against the Murloc Paladin. And, well, you know, Neil, that is another hungry crab there.
That is indeed a hungry crab, and those Murlocs had better watch out. That's all I can say, really.
It's true. They should watch out. And it's whether actually Turkey are going to get that early game. We saw a similar thing happen earlier today where there was no early Murlocs drawn, so the Hungry Grab didn't ever get its value. And actually, they won the game without ever using the Hungry Grab against the Paladin. So then they used the Hungry Grab for BM just to show.
Was that in the Hunter match?
Yes.
I think Dan made the point there that actually, as it's a 1-2 for 1, you don't lose that much anyway. And that's a pretty grim-looking draw. Yeah,
not the best. It would suggest, of course, they're running the Finger package. So if Finger does come out, it's just going to be drawing 2 War Leaders.
Which might not be the worst. We just saw that a moment ago for Mania. That wasn't necessarily the worst thing that could happen.
Okay, do you chew this up now with Hungry Crab, Neil?
I think this Inquisitor is going to get crabbed out of the game.
Yep. You've got to do it. Oh, well, I say that.
Oh, hang on.
Now Fledgling has changed my opinion quite drastically. You could do both.
You can do both. I think...
both is even better. It's horrible. It's awful. They're already down.
Stop it. They're already
Somebody think of the children.
Somebody think of the Murlocs.
Well, that's a perfect way to start the game. And if there is no answer from Stop It Blizz, who's actually going to be saying Stop It Epsilon right now, then this could quite severely go out of control.
Rockpool Hunter might have to just be played as a way of not dying, but... I mean... why? So you're trying to get some damage into one of these 2 minions so that Consecration finishes them off, I guess. You know that the 3/3 is going to go face. It's not going to hit the Hunter. That would be silly because you might get Wind Fury. Yeah,
by that time the Fledgling could be a Wind Fury 4/4 with Divine Shield, and then that's suddenly game over.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. I think you just play the Hunter and hope to draw something else you can play next turn. The option to keep the Hunter back, maybe Grimscale Chums in your deck, and you can play down the Hunter as a 3/4, which then would challenge next turn. But yeah, maybe in hindsight, actually keeping back and trying to draw 1-drop would be the best thing. I mean,
so you do the normal, you do the what's going to happen every single time, and if you get Wind Fury, you're very happy. That's what you're going to be looking for.
Wind Fury, Health, and Divine Shield.
You didn't need to say the other 2, Neil. It's just Wind Fury. That's all you're wanting.
Yeah, there's no D in that particular one.
You just want
and this time it's Divine Shield, Taunt, and cannot be targeted by spells or hero powers. Well, the Paladin doesn't do much targeting anyway, so Divine Shield just defending this thing, because, you know, it might hit you twice next turn if you do.
Already ugly. I think you could play the Bluegill Warrior as well here, just to rub more salt in the wounds. And those wounds are open
and
quite
they
severe
will probably
right
be
now.
Pretty salty as well.
It's something that's very difficult to take. I mean, not only the Fledgling just jamming you in the face constantly, but the fact they had the Hungry Crab as well, it's a very vicious combo.
Yeah, and the card that always gets forgotten about, it doesn't always get forgotten about at all, but occasionally you overlook in this situation, is the Innovate. You start with Innovate in this deck, you've got a 58% win rate.
Ooh.
And then when you've got a Fledgling, you only have a 53% win rate, because sometimes you haven't got the Innovate. When those two are together, I don't know what that means, but I think it's like 105% or something.
That's a lot of percentages.
Yeah, I think that's how.
That's a pretty high percentage.
Yeah.
But now you've got Enchanted Raven plus Power of the Wild, so your board is even scarier. It also puts a lot of stuff out of range of Consecration. If Epsilon does continue to play her cards right, which she has done phenomenally so far, then this game should be done and dusted, Neil.
Yeah, I think it's just time to hit face for 4 and see what happens with your flying pink Wind Fury nonsense, to be honest.
I remember back...
+3 attack or +3 health, which you want? Sorry.
+3 attack.
You remember back something like
Back in Tespa was when we first ever saw this.
Right.
So the Tespa tournament, 2 days after Unguru had been released, someone put Vicious Fledgling in their aggro druid, and they were like, this seems pretty good. And then we saw Innovate into Fledgling, into Wind Fury, and we were just like, my God, the meta has changed. I have learned something new this day.
Cracked.
I think Admirable almost had a heart attack that day because of the Fledgling.
Well, I think Stop It Please is probably saying words something along the lines of his username, and a massive start for Mexico there, just completely and utterly destroying there with just the nonsense.
The nonsense, the pink flying scary Fledgling was enough to gain a 1-0 lead for Mexico, to be honest, and it's a nice quick way to get into this series, and it's always good to get one out of the way. The nerves settle a little bit, there's suddenly no pressure, and Epsilon will certainly be happy to have put that one on the board for the rest of her team.
That's 4 cliches in 3 seconds. Well done.
You know, now I wear glasses, I feel like I have to say as many cliches as possible.
Yeah, well, you succeeded.
Thank you very much. Game number 2 then is where we will move toward, and it is going to be the Shaman Mirror. Shaman versus
And
Shaman.
this is one that both teams will want to win, ladies and gentlemen.
So Empanizado versus Thunder Up. Now you have to put emphasis on up because of the capital letters, Neil. Can you remember that for the rest of this cast, please?
I shall.
But yeah, Shaman versus Shaman. Do you think we're going to get Control versus Control? Do you think we're going to get Evolve versus Evolve?
Oh, that would be messy.
That would be messy,
I
wouldn't it?
think that we're going to see... I don't know enough about Mexico's style, if I'm perfectly honest. We've only seen them 3 times? We've seen them twice in this tournament, right? No, we've seen them 3 times, so I should know more about their style.
I mean, the style that we've witnessed today is they draw the best cards at the start of the game and win in like 5 turns.
All right, in that case, they should probably play aggression. I think we're going to see slow, trundling Shaman Mirror, though. I think if you start off with the aggressive stuff, you want to balance that out with something a little bit more trundly.
Slow, trundly Shaman. There we go. We've got a new name for the Jade Control Elemental Shaman. I think yours has more of a ring to it.
Yep.
Yeah, I prefer it. But if it is Evolve Shaman versus Evolve Shaman, then some lists have been running Devolve.
Yep.
Some haven't.
Yep.
Is that going to be a key factor in winning that matchup, having that Devolve? Can that just swing it enough in your favour?
It may actually not do enough. If your opponents make a load of 5 mana guys, turn them into 6 manas, you turn them back into 5s.
Yeah, they don't go back to 2/2s, unfortunately.
Yeah, they sometimes still turn into 4/5s and stuff like that. And the Devolve doesn't have that many really good targets. You're not, as that deck, you are putting some early pressure on, so it won't be wasted. But I feel that just having a better control card than Devolve in that matchup might be more handy.
And then for the other line of play that we might get then, if we do get the Elemental Mirror, is it the Lightning Storms and the Maelstrom Portals that can really swing that game? What's the game plan for both teams?
So you can just fire Elemental their stuff, steamroll the board.
Yep, okay.
The old memes, just get the board advantage and snowball to victory, seems to be pretty good. Obviously, you've got to control your elementals, make sure you've always got the option for one next turn. That can sometimes be trickier than it sounds, but a lot of the time the elemental mirror is who gets the flying start and manages to maintain it.
Do you know where my next question is? What
That
if
was
it's...
it.
No?
That was a question.
Oh, damn it.
So yes, I do.
Okay, do you know what my following question is?
No.
Okay, good. Is it an Elemental versus Evolve Shaman? You see where I'm going? I've asked you about the mirrors. Now what happens if we have the little Evolve versus Elemental? Who's the favourite in that one?
Me.
You can be the favourite.
I think the Evolve Shaman is just good at the moment. It can control board states, and if your opponents are playing slowly, I don't think it's easy to get rid of 3/6 drops that just appear out of the blue as Shaman. You can get rid of one at a time, which is like Hex. You can get rid of small boards with your portals, with your lightning storms, but I don't think it's that easy to get rid of 3 that just appear in front of you.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, the Volcano that we can see can help. Sometimes it can be enough to get rid of everything, but it does look like, just looking from the mulligans, this is more of a Control versus Control Shaman, or a Jade Shaman versus Jade Shaman, however you want to look at it, Neil. Either way, we're playing Shaman versus Shaman, and not Shaman versus Shaman.
No, I'm not having that.
I'm glad.
Okay, so Mexico having a pretty decent looking starting hand. Jade Spirit is a card you can keep here, I think. You don't have many flying starts, so you might as well get the Jades ticking along. Manatide Totem, I'm not sure. Blood Mage, you might as well. On the other side, I think you just keep your Blood Mage. They're just keeping the Mana Tide. They're not going to go with the Spirit. I like keeping Jade Spirit, but I don't know their build.
You were thinking about keeping the Blood Mage Thalnos there, did you say?
Yeah.
Is that just having some sort of early drop because this deck naturally has a lot of late game?
Yeah, and a way of killing off their Jade Spirits, their early stuff, with any potential Maelstrom Portals or Lightning Storms, etc. Just having that spell damage seems really useful. But they just wanted to get an earlier curve. But like in the Druid Jade Mirror, you just keep anything with the word Jade on it.
Yeah, I feel like you're
this
right.
Isn't quite the same, but
but there is going to be an element of. I nearly said elemental then, that would have been really cheesy. There is going to be an element of who can get those Jades out faster, because we can see the Jade Chieftain in both hands. And actually, funnily enough, so is Aya as well.
Yeah, so this is going to all kick off on about turn 7, when all of the Jades start to party. That's what happens.
And that's where something like a Devolve might have been able to swing the game in someone's favour. If you've already got a board for Jades, they put Jades on the board, then you Devolve and you have the health advantage because those minions are naturally a higher mana cost.
Really good. Devolve is really good against the Spirit Echo.
Yeah, you're completely right. Absolutely phenomenal.
Especially when you're in a Jade Mirror, you're trying to build up those Jades as big as possible, and one guy has an Aya turn into, I don't know, some sort of pudding, and everybody else has an Aya that turns into a 5/5.
What kind of pudding would Aya turn into? Like a cheesecake.
I don't know.
I think it would be lemon cheesecake.
Lemon cheesecake.
Sounds like I'm more creative than you, Neil.
You are more creative than me at this time of night, I'm afraid. I will pander to your needs of your jokes.
Cursor guy's at it again. Is he going to erupt the volcano? I will be very impressed if he knows the rhythm. But anyway, on the other side, we now actually start to see cards being drawn that are significant, that can start to sway this game. Stonehill Defender is going to not only provide them with a decent taunt minion, Alec here seems like a great pickup, but it's also a body that can get in the way of these pesky totems.
And you talked production into it. Off goes the volcano whilst this dramatic decision is being made. So the choice is really, obviously, the Fen Creeper or the Alakir, I feel. Alakir playing for a very long game, but this might be a very long game.
I'm not going to lie, I'm really impressed today with Cursor Guy, because not only did he know the volcano erupting format, but he also knew how to hit the laser earlier and set off the rocket. So impressed with him. Props to that guy. Don't know who you are, but I'm going to find out later.
All right, you find that out.
Jade
Turkey
Spirit
are in position to start making their Jades happen. They have the Spirit Echo as well, so they'll be looking to get on the way. Obviously, the bigger your Jades, the better the game. I mean, it's just as simple as that. But they want to deal with this pesky Mana Tide totem, otherwise their opponents will have more Jades than they have. It's, again, fairly simple.
Yeah, this was my concern. The Mana Tide totem is just sat there, being very annoying. And I'm wondering whether you have to deal with it now.
I think you maybe Tidal Surge it because you don't have a turn 5 play anyway, which means you can just go Jade Spirit on 5, Aya 6, Chieftain 7. For instance, that wouldn't quite happen because you want to weave in a way to get your Spirit Echo landed later on. But the Tidal Surge seems to just stop the problem now.
How significant is that health going to be later? Is it like the fact that you're not going to get any of that health now? Does it matter?
It's irritating, but no, when you're being hit by 9/9 golems, then I suspect that 4 health. It might be 8 health, of course, with Spirit Echo.
Yep.
No, it won't. It's 4. It's always 4. I'm
it's
going
always
crazy.
4, yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't know why I said yeah, to be honest.
You're just agreeing with me, assuming that I know what I'm talking about.
It's just already a bad mistake, isn't it?
See you next week.
I will indeed, actually.
Right, so this allows Mexico to be the first ones to get the Jades on the board. And that is going to generate a small snowball effect.
A small one, yeah. Something that...
A snowflake effect.
Yeah, just a snowflake, just a nice little sprinkle. And eventually it becomes unbearable and all the roads stop. And no one goes to work, Neil.
That's like a whole, 2 centimetres of snow.
Exactly, that's what happens in the UK. Okay, so you've got the option of Lightning Storm if you're really worried about this board, but personally I don't think this is too threatening, to be honest. Fen Creeper works very well with the mana that you've got in hand right now. Thing from below, not so good. You're going to wait until you can discount that later. What's your play here, Neil? Come on, talk to me.
Play here is to... It's It's to meh.
It's to meh.
I think we get the weapon down and just get another Jade on the board ready for Aya next turn. The big danger is you don't want Aya to be hexed particularly because you want to get the Spirit Echo on her. But I think that their hand is so good, is Mexico's. I mean, we can see that actually it's pretty much mirrored. But I think that Mexico's hand is so good they just want to get the Jades rolling. Okay, this is fine. That's the noise you made earlier.
It was. My Murloc impression is pretty good, but I'm only going to do it once every year because otherwise everyone will hate me. There's a Devolve!
Okay, that's
We were saying that's going to be significant. Yeah, if there is a Spirit Echo in Mexico's deck as well, that's when you want to jam it.
Okay. Turkey is just going to... He looks like Thunder Up is going to just play Aya.
Okay, so let's fast forward this game, Neil, then to, I don't know, turn 18,
okay.
for example.
Okay.
Are we just going to be in a position where both teams have contested the board enough that we're going to have 7-7, 8-8 golems, and it is just a matter of who got there quicker? Or do we think there is going to be some way, like Spirit Echo or a Volcano, that's going to be able to swing this game?
There's enough AoE of Lightning Storms and Portals that it's not quite like the Druid Mirror, where if you get 1 point of Jade ahead, you just run your 9-9 into there, especially if it's 2 points, more to the point because of swipe. You hit their 9-9 to their 7-7, and you just have a 9-2. With all this AoE, then when you've got to get a bit further in front, so there is a value consideration. So it's probably going to come down to who gets the best Spirit Echo off. And so getting your Aya Hex like that is definitely a negative thing.
Yeah, definitely not going to help. The Hex off the top was massive for Mexico. I wonder whether the Devolve is going to play a big part in this game. The Volcano does seem very tempting now. It just cleanly wipes this board away, and then you can just play a Totem afterwards as well.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. The only time, if you don't Volcano now, you probably never Volcano at all, because normally you're going to have stuff on the board as well. This is a good time to do the volcanoizing.
I guess what's your follow-up after the Volcano? I mean, you've got Jade Lightning next turn. You can't play the Chieftain, of course, because of Overload. So it all depends on what's going to be played from Mexico here for how Turkey are going to have to respond.
Yeah, Turkey trying to buy a little bit of time here. They want this Spirit Echo to go off on the Chieftain, maybe on something else as well, and they're just going to play for time. I imagine they're expecting to just Jade Lightning a minion and roll a Totem and go next turn, and maybe get hit in the face once or twice. There's a lot of healing in this deck, so getting hit in the face once or twice for like 3 or 4 is just not going to hurt. Well, it's going to hurt a little bit.
Another important factor for Turkey is they have managed to get that Hex, which will be very handy indeed for when Mexico play Aya. Of course, it can be fabulous against some of those Spirit Echo targets as well, but just that Devolve, Neil, honestly, I think that could really swing this game. There may be one in Mexico's deck as well, though.
Yeah, the Devolve's really good against the Spirit Echo and that aspect of the deck. It's not very good against 9-9 golems.
True.
So it is a double-edged. You've got to use it fairly, or you've got to use it very well. Otherwise, it just ends up doing nothing for you. So your timing of that is important. And Mexico now are deciding it's their turn to play Aya, and it's going to be their turn to get Aya hexed, I think.
Do you need to this turn? Is there any... yeah, I think you do. I was trying to think if there was a more... I don't know, a better use of your mana this turn, and then next turn you could perhaps hex it.
The danger is if you make a thing, yeah, that's what you're thinking, right?
Even if you Jade Lightning, if you Jinyu, then they just get to trade and they get the value out of it.
Yeah, so they may even get to Spirit Echo, into trade, into make a... things could get nasty. So they take their time to think about it, and why wouldn't you? But in the end, Thunder Up has to do the hex.
That is another Devolve on the opposite side. Mexico have got one as well, so again, Neil...
I'm trying to work out the difference in these two hands, actually, because I think that Mexico just have the same cards apart from Spirit Echo, but more stuff, which obviously is one of the most fundamental things, is just count who has the most stuff, and at the moment it is Mexico. Given that Turkey don't have a good Spirit Echo, so you can kind of rule that out of the equation at this time.
And it's the Jade clause as well is going to be significant here, the fact that they can just generate more Jades.
Yep.
To be honest, they don't want to use the Chieftain just yet, whereas Thunder Up may be forced to use the Chieftain in his next turn, and it's not going to be as big of a Jade as he would have liked. The alternative, you play Jade Lightning perhaps. May have to go for a totem first if you want to try and take down this thing from below.
Thing from below. Yeah, they've managed to generate a board that's not at all scary, but if you deal with it, the next board could be scary. And if you don't deal with it, it's going to hit you for 10, which is at least irritating.
Now, this is how the Evolve Shaman actually developed, is because people were in this kind of situation and they were like, well, we've got Devolve. What happens if we just put an Evolve in our deck? And they were like, oh, actually, we can probably include Doppelgangsters.
Because we might as well, yeah. I mean, that was a known combo, yes. What do we take out? A couple of cards.
Yeah.
Don't really care.
We've got enough Jade synergy in here. Do we need our Lightning Storms, for example? I don't think either of these will be running an Evolve. However, it's just how the Evolve has just naturally, it's evolved and naturally fit into these decks that have been so control heavy.
So Mexico have the 2 removal spells now, the AoEs. They may be tempted to start to push. I mean, Lightning Storm later on isn't that great, to be honest. So at some point you've just got to say, you know what, shall we just Lightning Storm now and get it over with? Or can we still get good value out of it for another couple of turns yet?
I think if they were able to get the Wrath of Air totem, that might have been a different consideration right now. However, the fact they have both Portal and Storm means they can just go all out and do the full whack if they want to.
Yeah, they've got enough to do it with just the Portal, though.
Yeah, just the Portal's fine. Jade Lightning as a follow-up is perfectly acceptable.
It is. Just for a second, I'm like, where's the space on the board? But yeah, there was a space on the board generated by the trade, of course. And now this board is problematic for Thunder Up.
It is, and even it's, as you said, it's not really a devolvable board either. It's not devolvable and it's not dissolvable either, Neil.
That's easy for you to say.
Do you want to try?
No.
Please do.
Please don't.
I mean, the thing from below is a 6-drop, so you're devolving that into a 5-drop, which is probably going to be better than a 5/5.
It's probably going to be like 4/5
yeah,
or similar. It's not going to make a difference.
It could be scary, and that's the worry. Does get Wrath of Air, so can use the Jade Lightning to take down the thing from below.
That's an important Wrath of Air. I think this game was almost over just by a little bit of tempo gain here if they didn't do that.
Yeah, thankfully they can stabilize ever so slightly, heal up as well.
Yeah, and so far the difference in Jades has just been 0. The game has actually been deciding by tempo up to this point, and the tempo has made Turkey have to be slightly inefficient, which means that Mexico have been able to just get more stuff out of their cards while staying level on Jades. Volcano, a completely useless pickup though.
Yeah, Turkey have just been behind. Thunder Up's constantly been having to use everything as removal and trying to contest the board, get back on. I mean, that was started from that Volcano originally. We were like, yeah, this is the perfect turn for Volcano, which it was, but then Mexico were just able to move on and carry on and just generate too much damage and threat.
Spirit Echo, something that Turkey are talking about. You can see the cards being flicked there. Maybe they go Jade, Chieftain, Spirit Echo earlier than they would probably like, just to generate some sort of Jade stuffery.
Jade stuffery. That's a pudding. Maybe that's what comes out from Aya. When Aya's devolved and she turns into a pudding. A Jade stuffery.
Okay.
That sounds nice.
That's tasty.
So they still keep the board presence now here, Mexico. And they can just continue to make it more of a threat as well. Jinyu being used to heal up one of the minions rather than the face. I like this.
Yeah, well, they saw last turn that Turkey were rolling into, trying to roll a totem into Jade Lightning and obviously struggling to clear. So if your opponent is struggling to clear, put down a whole bunch of stuff. And this isn't even the real stuff. The real stuff is the Jade Chieftain and the Guardian still in hand. This is just like the pretendy stuff.
And is Jade Chieftain the only option here for Thunder Up? I mean, alternatively, Stonehill Defender, look for more. You have a Hex, but none of these are good Hex targets. They're so far behind and they haven't found their Lightning Storm. They haven't had anything that's just really remove this board since their Volcano.
I mean, they're not dying anytime soon unless, for some reason, they feel there's a Bloodlust in Mexico's deck. In which case, they're dying very soon.
Which there always could be, to be honest. I mean, it's not been featured really
Right.
In the popularized decks that I've seen of this Shaman variant. However, in the Evolve one, we've seen Bloodlust.
And something we've seen in global games is people playing 28, 29 cards from a regular list and then just going, here's a card you just don't know exists. Because these teams are playing week after week, that makes them easy to scout. So to compensate for that, sometimes they just throw in a card you're just not expecting in the slightest, just to make yourself a little bit unpredictable.
Yeah, exactly. And it's worked out on several occasions. I mean, when my favorite from so far in the global games was when someone put Hungry Crab in their rogue deck, in their quest rogue deck, and we saw Hungry Crab just chew on Murlocs and then be returned back to the deck, and then chew on more Murlocs, and it was sublime. If you haven't seen it, go check out the VOD.
Week 3 it was, and I was casting.
Yeah, yes you were.
I enjoyed that. Right, Mexico just being fairly patient here. They realise that the board they've generated is good enough to manage to get rid of anything that Thunder Up may draw, and they're just taking their time.
They have plenty of time to work with as well. I guess their only fear at the moment is what happens if another volcano comes out from Thunder Up.
Yeah.
That's their worry.
Yeah, that really would sort of obviously equalise the situation, but they also probably should try and get this Jade Chieftain put onto the table as soon as possible now. It looks for all the world like Turkey just can't deal with this board, although they're not taking much damage and they seem to, they could be baiting for sure.
Yeah, they're okay at the moment. Is Stubborn Gastropod a good pickup here? Or can be dealt with easily?
Ancient of Blossoms isn't too bad. You've seen one hex and you kind of don't mind if it gets hexed, because then you get free reign on your Spirit Echo for later because you know there's no more hexes coming.
But I guess Turkey are at a point now where they're struggling to get things on the board to Spirit Echo.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking if you can stabilise much further down the line, because they have enough stuff. They've got a hex, they've got a devolve. If they can, eventually they will pick up that removal. It's going to happen.
Is it another volcano? Do you think that they could be running two? I've seen it. I've seen people run two volcanoes.
They'll be running something. It's just a case of which something. All right, choosing to defend their Manatide Totem behind 10 points worth of taunt. That also makes a lot of sense because they are panicking and trying to dig through their deck to get something moved.
I like it because a single Lightning Storm not going to do much. A single Maelstrom Portal not going to do much, but combine them both with perhaps a Wrath of their Totem, and then you're looking in good nick.
Yeah, and just to point out there was 10 points of attack on the other side of the board, so the 10 points of taunt actually worked out really nicely, except it didn't, of course, devolve. But you could say that play forced the devolve to happen, so, yeah.
Not the worst
it really isn't.
devolves there, really.
There's a whole bunch of stats appeared on the board.
That's pretty awkward to deal with. Of course, the Imp there, any minion that is played will deal damage to your face anyway, but the fact it's a 5/5 is just going to be somewhat of a threat that perhaps Mexico are going to want to try and deal with.
Yeah, they're going to take care of it. Yeah, it's all right, very well having that downside on your opponent's team, but on the opponent's board, but yeah, actually it's just a 5/5. And turn after turn, Mexico are finding a way to make sure they keep this massive amount of tempo, and they still haven't even played the Jade Chieftain.
No, they haven't, but they are running out of cards now, Mexico.
They are? Definitely,
and it's... I mean, is this overkill to even just Spirit Echo a Jade Spirit here?
Just looking to see if they can Spirit Echo, Jade Spirit, and something, something they could half useful.
They could Maelstrom Portal first. They could Jade Spirit, Maelstrom Portal, then Spirit Echo, and then you've got a 1-mana card back in your deck. In your hand, should I say.
The other option is, can they take another totem roll? Because they can just hit that Wrath of Air into this portal and clear half the board. That would be a very big help. Yeah, they went with that route, but now the punish for that route is they don't get to Spirit Echo anything interesting. And they may even just Jinyu here and possibly... do they want to burn a Hex? They really don't.
No, not at this point. They are actually going to go for their Devolve, though. To be honest, you were saying that you don't want to do it too late, so this seems like a pretty good turn to do so. Thankfully, none of those 1/1s are beasts.
But the 2/3 Cobra
one of them is.
And one of them was.
Wait, where was the beast in that? I didn't actually see. I just saw wisps, but it must have been in the corner of my eye. But yeah, you're completely right. That Cobra is going to deal with the Windspeaker very comfortably.
And buff the hyena.
It is going to buff the hyena. You are right. And then you've got a Jade Chieftain to follow up as well.
I don't think they play it. I think they've got enough stuff on the board that they can still keep waiting for that Spirit Echo with a thing from below the Jade Chieftain. They really want to get it down. It's been in their hand for a long time, but just getting that value is your insurance policy at this point.
I wonder even if that's worth a Hex as well, the Scavenging Hyena. Of course, it shouldn't get any more value.
I mean, at the moment, Thunder Up just has no way to deal with anything, basically.
He's been Thunder down for the majority of this game, to be honest.
Thunder down.
He's been constantly on the back foot.
Right, and actually Mexico say, you know what? We don't actually need late game because we're going to win.
Yep, they just want to win this one outright. Set up the lethal. Unfortunately, Thalnos isn't going to help, so how can they stay alive here, Turkey? Or can they stay alive, in fact?
Can they stay alive and
6/6.
generate any meaningful anything?
The answer, I believe, Neil, is no. You hex the 6/6, that's the biggest threat that's on the board, and there's still far too much damage. You can't even get a taunt of your own. Even if you did put your own totem and find the taunt, you're still dead.
Ouch.
Sorry to let you know.
Mexico looking to go to 3 wins. If they go 2-0 here, if they win that third game, they'll be on 3-1.
Yeah, which would put them in such a commanding position in this group. Both, to be honest, both of these countries would be extremely happy with a win. They'd be sat up in a very comfortable position. The other gets put in a slightly awkward position, but still not detrimental to their phase 1.
And I think that tomorrow night it's Vietnam versus Singapore from this group. That will be on our American colleague's desk.
Yes, yes it will.
Robin Cora will take over. Yeah, the Thunder Up's just seen enough of this beating that he's been taking turn after turn. And for the second game in a row, really, Turkey didn't have much they could do.
Unfortunately not. No, there was just too much tempo gained there by Mexico. They had just board presence constantly. Turkey were always behind. They had to use their removal early on. They got the Volcano, and we were thinking, okay, they might stabilize here.
Yeah,
but then the board went wide once again, and they didn't draw a second Volcano, or they didn't draw a Lightning Storm. They didn't roll Wrath of Air when they needed it for the Maelstrom portal. So unfortunately, just constantly behind as we move on now to the third game. Roll versus Irvin G. It's going to be Warrior versus Warrior, both choosing that over the Hunter. Not entirely surprised, but we have seen Hunter a couple of times today. People do still like it. But the Warrior versus Warrior matchup, something we just have to, frankly, get used to because it's here to stay for quite a while, Neil. But we will have the same old conversation. Is it going to be Pirates? Is it going to be Quest?
I played against Roll on ladder a couple of days ago, and he was playing Pirates.
Is he a rank 5 too?
Wow. How dare you insult Turkey like that? That's a whole nation you just offended.
What, the whole of the UK? Because they're embarrassed of you.
50% of Hearthstone casters. And
Exactly.
there's 3 of us.
there is 3 of us. So you're thinking he's going to play that just because you faced him on ladder?
I mean, it's a good idea to play the decks you're going to play.
Is it? Because we've spoke a lot about predictability.
This is true.
And we've said how all Hearthstone casters, all Hearthstone players kind of put everything on Twitter and everything's so publicized. If you're playing something on ladder a lot, then are people going to know what you're playing, Neil? If you know what he's playing, then I'd like to think that the player in the opposition side is going to know what he's playing as well.
Why has he played him on ladder? No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, you're going to run into, you do run into the same players over and over again at the top of the ladder, so.
he can't face him because he's not a rank 5 like you, sorry. Sorry, Lorinda. It's okay, we can go home, we can help you climb tonight. Me and Falcone can coach you if you like. We can even get Scotland Raven on Skype. They're in America at the moment, so the time zone's quite fitting. We're all here for you, Grandad, alright?
So upset right
You're in
now.
the Hearthstone Global Games home. That's where you are right now. We can feed you and give you water and everything.
Excellent. I'm so pleased with this conversation and where it's headed.
Okay, so
Roll is not rank 5 at all.
He's not.
And he was playing Pirates the other day. Like you say, he could absolutely be playing anything. Pirate Warrior is just a way to climb through the ladder really rapidly. I mean, it's a powerful deck, but when you are rank 5, it's a powerful way to get yourself to Legend very quickly as the deck is so powerful.
Yeah, similarly to any aggressive deck, really. Aggro Druid is just as good. That can get you to Legend in just a couple of days, Neil.
Thanks for the advice, Dan.
Just to let you know. But if it's going to be Quest Warrior versus Quest Warrior or Quest Warrior versus Pirate Warrior, regardless, we did see earlier the Quest versus Pirate Warrior matchup, and the Quest Warrior just wasn't able to get anything in the way at all. The Pirate Warrior just gained so much steam.
Right.
But that can go the opposite way, right? You can just get those taunt after taunt, and then the Pirate Warrior can't get through those taunts.
Yeah, somebody just goes Ghoul into Execute, and that just gets rid of all the 1 health minions. It kills off the 1 big minion the Pirates managed to draw, and suddenly there's a 2/7 Alley Armor Smith, and that's the end of that game. So it can definitely go both ways. As it looks like we're getting into the game, and it's that matchup with Mexico playing the aggressive version and Turkey playing the Quest. And as Falcone pointed out, when you're playing the Quest, you can't throw it away. If you knew for a fact they were pirates, you could. But if you throw it away in the mirror, you've thrown away the game.
Yeah, it's always a risk. I mean, in theory, it's a risk and reward. If you do throw it away, then you're going to be... it's a tough one, and that's another thing about these blind matchups. It's so difficult to know.
You just can't do it, because it's an auto loss.
Yeah.
If you throw it away in the mirror.
In the mirror, yeah. You're completely
right. So you just have to go with ugh.
But is it enough of a risk? No, it's not. Yeah.
It's just so bad in the mirror.
It's
like the mirror is a straight race to complete the quest. If you haven't got one, you're a long way behind.
I was wondering on the percentages of winning against Pirate Warrior if you do mulligan in a way.
It's just 1 extra card. You've got to take your chance that you draw well.
Yeah, I think you're right. They have to keep it. But the start isn't sublime.
Sort of analysis
Mexico.
you get when you play Druid to Legend.
Yeah, at least someone
anyway.
can hit that. Upgrade. Do you just upgrade here just to start this kicking? Just to get 1 damage to face?
I think you have to, because you might draw a 2-drop a Raider next turn.
Yeah.
And not just... Yeah.
Or even a deckhand, but then
wait.
deckhand you could do it next turn anyway.
Yeah, it's only really Bloodsail Raider that's the...
Instantly, I'm favouring Turkey. I'm now favouring Turkey even more after seeing that card coming off the top.
Yeah, and now you have to play the upgrade, so you've got the chance to play your Dread Corsair next turn.
Yeah, so you can play something.
Yeah.
And get patches on the board as well, at least.
This is absolutely horrible for Garrosh.
Yeah, too. He looks very chilled in his webcam picture.
Yeah.
Working out. But Turkey will be quite comfortable here. They'll be thinking, all right, well, either this has gone one of 2 ways. They either thought we were playing Pirate Warrior and they've mulliganed away their quest and they've been silly, or we're playing a Pirate Warrior who's just not drawn anything.
And it is indeed a Pirate Warrior who's not drawn anything.
Well, yeah, we know that.
Oh, yeah, so we
they don't know that.
They might now. Given that
oh, they've just drawn patches as well. If it didn't get any worse.
Just start the next game?
Yeah, this is a game. I keep stealing
You had a
your
pen all along.
Sorry, mate. Patches is drawn. They're not going to play that either. Unfortunately, this is going from bad to worse for Mexico. And
yeah.
You've got just free roam here to play whatever.
I think that not playing the upgrade on turn 2 was not really a nod to how bad their hand was. It's like, well, let's just get something played. If they'd got the Corsair down, I think they might have at least had some play.
But now they can finally play something, Neil.
This is true.
Unfortunately, it's still not fantastic. I mean, thankfully for Mexico, there's no massive threat on the board from Turkey just yet.
I mean, that's just the one saving grace, right? Roll is actually sort of having a mediumly bad hand as well. If he hadn't got the War Axe, his hand would actually been really poor.
So opting to go for the Corsair rather than the Corcoran Elite, of course, because the Corcoran Elite can just be dealt with so comfortably by the Fiery War Axe.
So you've got to make something happen.
Going to make something happen and allow that Acolyte to be killed off as well if you do want to trade. Armorsmith there. I mean, okay, so I'm naturally just leaning towards Turkey and I'm thinking that this game may already be over, Neil.
I mean, the instinct is we're looking at Mexico's hand and we're thinking exactly that. It's like, this is over. But then you look at Turkey's hand. Obviously, they can gain some armor, but actually, they can't really stop what is soon going to become an onslaught.
Well, this is what I was going to say. Where is the win condition? Oh, that's about right. Where is the win condition for Mexico here? Do they have enough, do you think, turn after turn, to be able to win this game? Or do you think the fact that these taunts have been able to play so comfortably that they're going to struggle to get back into this?
Yeah, I think they're going to struggle massively to get into this. The only reason I'm not completely writing them off is just that at the moment, Turkey don't have that much in the way of defense, but they're going to have enough defense. They're going to draw cards of the Battle Rage. They're going to survive to turn 8 to get that Drake down. They have the Sleep with the Fishes to go without the turn after. They've got the Execute. They should be fine. Like, almost every card in their deck will be helpful from this point on. That's the thing. The Warrior doesn't miss picking up a taunt often enough for their next 6 cards to all be terrible.
Yeah, you're completely right. But, I mean, you say there's not that much, but, I mean, there is a 2/7 taunt in the way currently of Mexico already. And the way they deal with that is by giving across 6 armor.
Yeah, it's not fun, right?
It isn't.
Turn 5, you've dealt 1 equivalent damage.
It does mean you have something on the board, at least.
Yeah, this is going to get rid of the Axe, finally. And they should get a powerful turn where they play the 2 Corsairs. And there's a Brawl. Brawl not particularly good against Pirates. If you're going to sort of hope your opponents whiff several turns in a row, I guess that's the first one. But, yeah.
So this is the situation you were on about. The Armorsmith's gone. And now their turns are somewhat awkward. I mean, to the point where they're even hovering over an Execute for this 4-1. Which actually, I don't mind.
Right, because almost everything has at most 4 health and a lot of it has 3 health. So keeping back the weapon is going to kill a good percentage of the opposing minions. They know there's no 3-drops in hand. So they can actually put Mexico on a pretty narrow range of cards here. They know there was no Frothing Berserker or Cultists, so they've probably got a good idea that this War Axe is good here.
Some sort of whirlwind effect would be fantastic for Turkey, just to be able to combine it with Sleep with the Fishes, something like a Ravaging Ghoul. There's another Armorsmith.
This is the problem, right? They're just not going to whiff often enough to let Mexico into it. Mexico down to 3 cards in hand, just smashing through these taunts. And never underestimate Pirate Warrior. I've done it a few too many times in casts,
yeah,
but it does look pretty grim.
It does look grim, and I've been there, and I've counted out Pirate Warrior time and time again, and I think everyone has, really, but it does have just that constant damage that you really do have to be concerned about when you are on the receiving end of it. There is going to be a 4-1 left on the board now, and they're going to be able to put even more, because of the South Sea Captain. They have Dread Corsair. It's not awful. I mean, you've been in better positions when you're a Pirate Warrior, of course. But they have managed to regain somewhat control. Unfortunately, the Brawl is going to... We'll just say no thank you.
Yeah, and even if the biggest minion wins this, it's just not going to put enough pressure on the 26 available health. And actually, Sleep with the Fish is going to get some value as well. And Mexico are down to 1 card needing to do 26 damage against a deck full of taunts. Next turn we'll start with a 4-8.
And that's the thing. I mean, even if they were to get, I don't know, an Arcanite Reaper and be able to put 5 damage per turn, the fact that we can see the Drake, I mean, that's what just calls game over to me, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
Follow that by Stonehill Defender into another taunt that could be significant.
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to be ambitious from Mexico's point of view for several turns now, but as soon as this Drake comes down, they will pick up their cards and start to work out what they're going to do.
They don't even need to see the Drake. They think that game is done and dusted, and quite right too. There is going to be 1 win on the board for Turkey. Roll managing to grab that one for his team, and we will move into game number 4. So we're not going to see a 3-0 sweep here. The Pirate Warrior not able to get through the Quest Warrior this time.
Not this time, whereas last time Romania didn't actually let their opponents keep a minion on the board for the whole game.
Yes, because Romania were able to, I don't know, play a card on turn 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to help. Do wonder about turn 2 there a little bit, or even turn 1. Having that
playing the
upgrade
upgrade?
to allow the Corsair to come down, but they obviously had other plans. And talking of mirror matches, we've just had a Shaman mirror, we've had a Warrior mirror, and now we're going to have a Rogue mirror. And as you two said earlier, you and the other Dan,
Yeah, that one.
there's been just no Rogues played today.
Yeah,
well, apart from that one.
Apart from that, we hadn't seen as much Rogue, similarly to yesterday as well, just seeing the one Miracle Rogue being selected. Again, it could be the Quest Rogue mirror. If it is so, just down to whoever can get those bounce back effects nice and early, really. It can just come down to completing that quest first. However, I have seen games won by someone completing the quest second.
Yeah.
It really comes down to who has more board presence in those situations.
Yeah, sometimes the person completing it second completes it with, say, Glacial Shard and just freezes up your board, and then the person who completes it first does very little, and then you just take over the game. But it is pretty good to get the quest done first, oddly enough, when you get 5/5s versus 1/1s.
Now, you were instructed to play a lot of Quest Rogue, weren't you?
May have been.
There was a little man on your shoulder who said, hey, Neil, play Quest Rogue. We need to get someone who's good at Quest Rogue. And that has been you. You've been selected by Sottle to be good at Quest Rogue. And now we're going to get 2 Miracle Rogues, and you're not going to have any knowledge of it whatsoever.
Pressure is, yeah, if they get 2 Quest Rogues, I might not have either.
Hey,
yeah, this is going to be interesting. I think the Quest Rogue mirror is more skillful than people give it credit for, but as always, you've got to have the disclaimer that Quest Rogue is pretty forgiving.
Now, I've seen people say on Twitter, like quite significant pro players say, I believe Quest Rogue is the hardest deck to play right now.
Yeah, RDU was a player who said it was very tough to play. He didn't say it was the hardest, but he said it was up there as well. He's another player in that thought. I agree. I think it's the hardest deck out of all the decks at the moment to play correctly. I'm just not sure how much that matters. If you play it incorrectly, I don't know how much you're giving away in terms of the deck is so powerful when it does its thing that it just wins anyway.
And if we have the Quest Rogue versus Miracle Rogue, then are we thinking that that's favourable to Quest Rogue or to Miracle Rogue, in your opinion?
I'm not sure, if I'm honest. I think the Miracle Rogue can do pretty well, but
again, I think it just comes down to that tempo.
It's all about the build as well. They've got the vile spines, and it just depends how the Miracle is built. Is it built with Leroy? Can it just finish the game?
To be fair, sometimes it just goes down to, can I get a 12-12 Edwin on the board on turn 2?
Yeah, because you know that almost certainly the Quest Rogue can only deal with that by freezing stuff. And that's fine if they have that going on, then you probably lose with your big Edwin. But on the other side of it, if they can't do that, then the Edwin's just going to...
Well, enough about Edwin, because he's not going to matter. It is the Caverns Rogue matchup face-off. You've been playing this a lot, Neil.
I have not played it a lot. Played it a bit.
But, okay, mulligans then.
So you don't mulligan the quest.
Okay, that's a good start.
Ignis Elemental is always a keep. It's one of the best win percentage cards in the entire deck. It's really important to keep that card. I've got the numbers somewhere lying around. Yeah, if you keep Elemental in your opening hand, you have a 57% win rate, which is ridiculous. That's the same as having Innovate in Druid.
And we saw what happened when that Druid did have Innovate in its hand earlier.
It really did, unless you blinked.
Unless you blinked, and it was over in a flash, and that's how Mexico got a 1-0 lead. But it is going to be Mexico going first. I don't know if you have any statistics on averages of who goes first, who has the coin. I know coin
so much.
Coin for Rogue used to be huge.
Right.
It used to be massive in the mirror matchup. I'm not sure if it's as significant in the Quest.
Remember there's no combo in this matchup, so maybe it's not so good. I think you want to be going first. The Ignis Elemental's probably not quite so good in the mirror either, because actually killing it off is kind of awkward.
That's the problem.
That being said, with a Novice Engineer in your hand, you're automatically posing the threat of, well, this is slow. You don't want to complete quests with engineers, but your opponent doesn't want to let you complete it with an engineer either, because if you do start going that route, you'll get too many cards.
Turkey not too quick to drop the Firefly and start throwing that one back to the hand. They're more than happy to just dagger up and look for more. For example, if they were to draw another Glacial Shard, then that may change their line of thought. You don't want to rush into what minion you're going to be putting on the board straight away, that's for sure. Yeah,
Turkey are actually very close to completing already if they decide to go with the Firefly. You usually go with the Elemental or the Shard, whereas Mexico look like they're close, but actually there's not a whole lot they can do. They can't kill these 2/3s off. Most people don't play Backstab anymore. So killing them off yourself is really difficult.
And that's not a Brewmaster either. If it was a Brewmaster and the Brewmaster was had to use to chuck the Firefly back to the deck, then that would be a good way for them to kill it off. But instead, it's a Ferryman, which is just going to be sitting on the board as well as a 2/3.
All right, he has decided to complete it with the Firefly. Now, you've got to be a bit careful when you do it this way. We saw a very good player the other night burn the quest by choosing to do it this way.
The unthinkable.
The absolute unthinkable. pretty amusing to see, to be perfectly honest.
Thankfully, I've never been in those shoes. I've never burnt the quest, and I can imagine that feels pretty bad, actually.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, I mean, it can happen. I mean,
Yeah, Standard
seen,
did it the other night.
Yeah, it's not just one pro player that's done it. We've seen several in several tournaments, to be honest.
Okay, so Mexico just getting that damage put onto the Igneous Elemental there. And Turkey can complete this quest any way they want. Or they will be able to. I mean, they can just build into it, unless they draw the worst draws ever. And having the preparation means they're going to have the tempo when they do complete as well.
This is the thing, they don't have the tools right now to complete it. Yes, okay, they've drawn the second Bilefin, so if they had kept that frame, then the Bilefin could have perhaps been used to complete the quest. However, they've only going to have the option of playing that Firefly or Flame Elemental a third time. They don't have the activator to play it a fourth time yet. So not in a fantastic position, but certainly in a good one.
Interesting, they're choosing to freeze the one that can't die anyway.
Yeah, I would rather freeze the 2-1 that would die, to be honest.
Yeah, same as that. I would definitely in a situation where I don't want to kill this thing off and leave my opponents a chance. But maybe they're just going to keep that one frozen for the whole game and say, okay, you've got 2, where are you going to get your other 2 elementals from? We haven't seen you play a Firefly, maybe you haven't got them.
So Turkey just need one more bounce back effect then, and they're starting to build up a board. I think that's what's important here.
Right.
If they can find that one more bounce back effect, the fact that they have a preparation as well,
yes,
then this is going to be a very juicy board to activate that crystal.
Yeah, if they get the bounce back next turn, they could actually just go and hit your opponent for 20.
Yeah, it's just green light.
So definite options there. Shadow Step, another high percentage card in your opening hand. They picked it up very, very early. Also, one of the winning cards in this deck by your Mulligans.
Yeah, of course, the Shadow Step. Crazy good. Mexico can deal with the majority of this board, if not all the board, because they are going to play the boar as well. They want to get as much of a board presence as possible. And now Turkey will be looking to draw some sort of bounce back. That's not it, but they can keep on searching.
Can keep on searching indeed. Using up the deck hand there was upsetting for Mexico. You want to keep it so you can play it and do 10 damage, of course. Not as upsetting as drawing patches is for Turkey, though. That's actually worse than people think. People think that by having patches in your hand, well, you're playing boars anyway. I'm going to bore you with some more numbers now, I'm afraid.
You don't bore me ever, Neil.
Oh, I love you. But they think that playing boar, playing patches is the same thing. Actually, because the way patches interact with a deck hand, if you have boar in your opening hand, you're 49%. It's just a fractionally poor card. If you have patches in your opening hand, you're only 43%. So it knocks 6% off your win rate getting patches before you get to cheat with it and play a deck hand and get a 5-5 patches.
Yeah, not entirely surprised. 5-5 is better than a 1-1. I don't think anyone's going to question that, but very interesting statistics that you do have there, Neil. And speaking of patches, there he is again, been drawn by Turkey, and it's not going to help out particularly in this moment. I mean, options here, they play another elemental, maybe.
Yeah, now it's going to be about making sure that 2-3 can't kill itself and trying to stop your opponents from having enough going on. They're choosing not to kill the 1-1, or have they already attacked?
I was listening to your facts. Sorry, I didn't actually. I didn't see if they attacked with their weapon.
Don't like the emphasis on the words facts there.
I'm guessing that maybe they attacked and they went from a 1-2 to 1-1. But anyway, Mexico drawing a preparation, not particularly handy at the moment, but it could be very much a good thing if they are able to find that quest and get it completed sooner. But they need to kill off this Igneous Elemental, as you said. No way of doing that just yet. So I guess for Mexico now is. Let's build a board.
Yep.
And let's try and get as much of a presence as possible, because then if we do get those bounce backs that we need next turn, we can just smash our opponent. I guess that's just the game plan for both of these.
Yeah, preparation also really good with Vanish in this situation as well, allowing you to occupy the board. Obviously, patches will be kept back as a 5-5 charge minion from the side of Turkey. But Mexico just got no way of getting these second 2 elementals on the board at the moment because they just can't kill off their 2-2 and they don't have a single bounce and haven't had a bounce for the whole game.
So there's a possible bounce back now for Turkey if they want it. So they could play the Firefly if they would like to. They could then prep and Vanish if they wanted to as well, and that would allow them to complete the quest. However, do they want to give back these Fireflies? That's why they're killing off one at least first, so they're not giving two back. So just one of those Fireflies could, Fire Elementals could be played by their opposition, so it's not completed.
Yep, and it's just going to slow everything down for Mexico, and it's going to put Turkey in a very powerful position. Prep Vanish, and then they can put a whole load of stuff on the board with the intention next turn to just attack for 15 or 20 damage.
Yeah, quite significant that they did trade off and kill the opposite elemental, because if that had survived, then they would have been looking at allowing their opponent to complete the quest as well. Instead, now they're in such a good position. They complete the quest, and as you said, just shove a load of 1-2s on the board. You can put a Barfin Tidehunter down as well if you would like.
And the decision they made, that their hand was good enough to complete with the Firefly. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get your Igneous Elemental and then you use your Firefly just for one extra Elemental. They decided to do it this way. This is why they now have so many other Flame Elementals to play with.
Firefly off the top for Mexico means they can complete their quest as well. They have the preparation to do so, so they can get that Crystal Core activated, and they can get those 5/5s earlier than Turkey. So a very big draw getting that off the top.
Yeah, their preparation into Crystal Core
And
really
you can use the Glacial Shards as well now to get even more board control here.
Right, and this is where the game goes completely crazy. Like I say, the one way if you complete it second that you really have a comeback mechanism when we did the intro is if you get those Glacial Shards. But everything just gets a bit silly about now.
So of course what's definitely happening here is Crystal Core. Whether
that seems like
that's 100% happening. The follow-up, I guess, for them is: do we need a charge minion? Do we need to try and negate some of this damage, or do we put two 5/5s, one of them being a taunt? And they're going to answer that.
And they're going to go with that. Of course, the downside of this means that next turn you can't do the Brewmaster with it and get a whole, get the extra taunt minion. You only get the one. If they go with the patches clear, leave your opponent with just 2 minions. Next turn, you could have played the Balefin, bounce it back, play it again, and have a pretty big board.
Who do you think's in a better position here, Neil? To be honest, I'm trying to work this one out myself. The Glacial Shards have helped a lot. I think a bounce back effect for Mexico from this next draw would be huge. If they can just freeze one more thing.
Remember, they haven't drawn one all game until that last turn, so they are likely to draw a bounce back effect. Pretty high probability here. That's a complete miss, and so that does give Turkey the advantage. Again, Turkey putting the Balefin on the board was a little bit weird to me, just because they now cost themselves a card. They cost themselves a 5/5, but maybe they felt it was necessary. Maybe they thought they were just going to die, because there was a lot of damage looking at them.
To be honest, even if they had drawn a bounce back, it wouldn't have been the Glacial Shards they'd use it with, of course, because they wanted to trade those off. It would have been the Balefin Tidehunter to try and just generate more of a board.
Mexico are clearly in the better position now, because if the Igneous Elemental dies, basically nothing dies.
And the Brewmaster's doing nothing because you're not going to be bouncing back patches realistically, because you're wanting to use this to trade here. This is all about board presence now for both of these teams. And the Tar Creeper, again, a pretty dud draw, to be honest, Neil.
Yeah, and Turkey going to go face. They think they're so far behind, they're going to go face. I assume that means they're going to go face twice.
Either that, or they're now going to Brewmaster it back and then use it to trade just to get the Brewmaster on the board, and the Tar Creeper, again, just to keep as much pressure as possible.
Yeah, at least they get the taunt this way. Quite often the face damage from the weapon matters. It's not going to matter from Turkey's point of view. From Mexico's point of view, if they can get 2 more points to the face with their weapon, it will make a difference of 1 hit from a 5/5.
So they are opting to trade. I like this. I think this is a sensible decision, because if they leave the Tidehunter on the board, then a bounce back effect will punish them severely.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to do. Going to then see Mexico trade in and play 2 5/5s. At the moment, it's going to be whoever's just had a turn is in front. Ferryman not that useful in this spot, apart from the fact it's a minion and not a preparation, but,
Yep, and of course they are going to play it first rather than play any elementals to get as much on the board as humanly possible. What are Turkey looking for to make a difference here?
Mimic pod.
Yeah, Mimic Pod would be massive. Would allow them just to get more of a board presence.
Deckhand not going to cut it, but it's not going to. I mean, they're not going to die anytime soon. Well, you say that against Quest Rogue, you get punished, but they look like they're only going to be hit for a couple of turns. But they're not just 1-5-5 behind; they're also a turn behind. At the end of this, Mexico will be starting their turn with a 5-5, and maybe they just put everything into face here and force Mexico to make the trades, and then try to mimic pod into Stone Tusk Ball.
Yep, I like it. Play the aggressor. You're already behind if you start trading now, and you just got to hope for the best. So one charge minion for Mexico would win the game. Mimic pod and preparation means they can just search. I mean, I don't think you need the preparation, to be honest, but you can draw 2 cards now. Do they get a charge? The answer is yes, they get a Stone Tusk Ball. They can finish this game. Mexico win the series 3-1. A fist is pumped as well. Mexico go 3-1 in the group, and they win the quest off. Neil.
3-1 in a very strong position, and Yinus knows it. He is absolutely delighted. They're doing a little dance for us, which is always nice to see. It saves me having to do it and putting my hip out.
Yeah, you shouldn't be dancing.
You're having to go though, I can see that.
I'm having a little jig though, for Mexico. I wouldn't have a favourite though. I wanted Turkey to do well too.
Yeah, I think Turkey are still in a good spot on 2-1.
They are.
So both these 2 teams showing up, and 2 teams surprising, especially Mexico. I don't think many people thought Mexico had much chance in this event, but 3-1 as we see how the match unfolded there. Really good start from Mexico. It was 1-0 before we'd even sat down really, with turn 1. Crab for 3-4 and a 3-3 fledgling.
Yeah, that was absolutely filthy, to be honest. And Mexico, as you said, they're in a really good nick now to find themselves potentially in the second stage of the tournament.
Yeah.
And I was quite surprised in that Quest Rogue mirror, to be honest. I was thinking it was Turkey's for the majority of the game, especially the lack of bounce backs from Mexico. But that Firefly coming off the top was massive for Mexico.
Yeah,
really
in fairness, they had a lot of bouncers available to them as well. They just didn't draw any. That's why we thought Turkey might be in the ascendancy. But the second it's close like that, if you've got the Ignis Elementals and you've bounced back a new Firefly, yeah, suddenly you're going to have more 5-5s than your opponent, especially when you can freeze stuff and take control of things.
Do you think that Mexico, with this surprise factor, perhaps, like, how far do you see them going in the tournament, Neil? Honestly,
I feel that if they get to stage 2, they'll be delighted with their performance. So that's code for saying I think they might not get to stage 3. But stage 2, we don't eliminate that many teams. So Mexico will be looking to get to the top 16, and if they can get a good seeding, taking their chance, maybe top 8.
Well, I believe we have an interview with Eunice as well, so we'll see what he has to say after such an incredible victory. My friend, you were doing a little jig after that one, so you must be pretty happy with yourself. 1 moment. Okay, that's fine. We can wait all day.
I have the Discord.
How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm very, very happy.
I can see that.
That draw gave me the victory, and I was so nervous that I'm going to lose, that I could lose.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on your shoulder, I imagine, from your teammates, but that Firefly coming off the top was so big for you. Did you think you were out of the game before that draw came through?
Firefly, you mean the charge? No, Firefly.
Well, the charge won you the game, but the Firefly, the Firefly allowed you to be able to actually proc the quest, which is where I really think that got you back into the game.
Yeah, I think so. Before that, I think I'm gonna lose, but thanks to God, I could draw that card in the exact moment.
At the start of the tournament, did you think you would have a good chance of stage 2, or are you surprised?
No, we're very confident about that because we know that we have good players, but the problem in Mexico is that we doesn't have that consistency.
Yep.
And they don't if they lose, they don't want to play anymore.
Right.
So you know that Hearthstone is a game that you have to play and play and play and be constant.
Yeah, you have to have a good mentality for Hearthstone, that's for sure. Do you know your teammates very well? Have you met any of them in real life? Have you invited them around your house or anything like that?
No, before the global games, I just know Irving and Epsilon. because Irving, I consider him the best player of Mexico right now because he do more than me before the global games, and Epsilon because is a great streamer.
Yep.
He is.
And Panistago was the only one that I didn't know before this.
Ah, well, it seems like you're gelling pretty well now, and now you can all go out and party, and you can continue dancing like you were after the end of that game. Congratulations again, and good luck in the rest of your games, or your final game in the following weeks.
Thanks.
He's a chirpy chap, isn't he?
I love seeing these stories unfold. We saw it in the Philippines when they beat Germany, like a room full of delighted people. We saw it with Austria when they made a big surprise as well. Now we're seeing it here with Mexico. It's part of the beauty of this tournament is seeing what we consider the underdogs, even if they don't, coming through and being happy.
Yeah, it's always nice to see them happy and chirpy, and he's completely right. I mean, if you are playing Hearthstone and you are so easily, tilted if you lose a game.
Right.
You're just not going to move forward. You need to be able to accept those losses, take them on the chin, and Mexico are in a really good position to move forward to stage 2. Of course, we've got some of the replays now. I mean, this was a very short replay because it was a very
second
turn. It was a very short game because just getting that fledgling and that hungry crab was phenomenal. It was groundbreaking. Unfortunately for Turkey, that was just a blowout.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those games where you can say you played perfectly. You may not have done, but you lost on turn 3, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, Stop It Blizz was just, probably pretty grumpy after that. That's another thing, actually. I wonder how it affects you. If you've just lost a game, speaking of getting aggravated when you do lose, how does that affect your mentality with your teammates trying to win the second game? If you're still going over it in your head about the previous game, you're saying, oh, well, what happens if they didn't draw that fledgling?
In other news, your teammates can just mute you and get on with the match while you sort of get it out your system. And of course, there's 4 of you. Quite often, a lot of the teams have said, actually, we only want 3 people talking, and one guy's a spotter. Let's just put this guy to the corner for a minute.
Maybe someone needs to make that decision. Maybe that's when the anchor or the captain comes into play and says, actually, we think you're in a bad mood right now, and we don't feel like you would be helpful whatsoever.
Yeah.
So please exit this conversation, come back when you're in a better one.
That's a thing that might happen. Only you would think of. But it's
no,
true. It's very true.
It should happen because if you've got someone with who's a negative Nancy, they might look at plays and they might think they're not as good as possibly they are.
I do think a lot of very strong players across all games are less prone to getting angry when they're playing on their own team. I think a lot of players understand. A lot of players are sort of, if you solo queue it in with a team on a game, and you get angry, you don't care because it's not me, but other people.
Yeah.
They don't care because they don't know. They're faceless people they're getting angry with. When it's your team, I think people think, oh yeah, I'm letting my team down here. So I think that's why most people, I suspect, won't have that problem.
And I think that's what he was saying in his interview as well. He was saying he was worried. He didn't want to be the one to kind of throw this away. If it had gone to 2-2, he would have felt guilty. Honestly, it reminds me a little bit of like a penalty shootout in soccer or football. There's just a lot of responsibility on you in this blind matchup that if you lose your game, you cannot do anything about it following, except from just advising your teammates.
Interesting that he felt nervous that he was going to possibly mess it up because that implies that maybe he was the sole driver of this. Maybe there wasn't that much input from his team on this particular deck. So he took the weight on his shoulders. He seems to be the designated roguist.
The designated roguist. Someone has to be the roguist. And you could see from the celebration how much it meant to that man and how much it meant to Mexico as well. Doing a little jig and a little dance. And honestly, it paints a wonderful picture for Mexico. And it was so nice to see. But we'll have a look and see how that has affected the group standings as well. Because we know that Mexico, they go up to 3-0, 3-1, is it? 3-1. Look at that. I believe the game record is probably incorrect there, but regardless, the match record is right. They wouldn't be able to win 3 matches with only 3 games, Neil. That
doesn't seem very likely. But Vietnam and Singapore play tomorrow. After that one, we will have a much better picture of how this one was going to unfold. But I don't think, Mexico will care, but they look like they're in a really strong position now. As their game record miraculously jumps to 9-8.
9-8, there it is. That seems to be better. Turkey just at 2-1, 7-5. Both teams will still feel relatively comfortable. Turkey, as you say, will feel more comfortable if Vietnam were to lose tomorrow, but that will remain to be seen. Anyway, Neil, Any particular highlights from you from today's stream? It's been a good fun one,
It
hasn't
has been a good fun one. I think for me, Romania getting the 3-0 win, which keeps them alive, like very alive. I think that's the highlight for me. Even though it's a 3-0, which isn't usually a highlight, the fact that RDU has come back last year and then come back and got into HCT and get into the championship event. And then this year he's come through with his team from 0-3 to give themselves a chance. Looking forward to see how that pans out either way.
Yeah, seeing RDU in a good mood is always great. Let's have a look at tomorrow's schedule then and see what you can witness on the American broadcast. Canada versus Malaysia and Singapore versus Vietnam. Make sure to look out on Twitter for times of when that one starts. I'm not sure on the exact specifications, but it'll be very late for us Europeans, something like 2, 3 a.m. A few Americans just know it's tomorrow evening, and that's what you have to look forward to. So Neil, you enjoyed Romania winning. They can now get back into that group. They'll be hoping that the UK loses, though, mind. And maybe they might be able to find their way back into the group. That's certainly what RDU was hoping for.
Yeah, very much so. UK versus Netherlands, a match that I think may be coming up next week. But Canada, Malaysia tomorrow. Both those teams are 3-0. Canada have dropped 1 game in this tournament so far. So that might be well worth a watch.
Canada and Malaysia then, both at 3-0, so that is definitely going to be one to watch. But we are all wrapped up for all of today's games. It's been an extremely fun one from myself, from Neil, from production, and of course Falcone as well. Have a wonderful evening, have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next week.